day, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all is well with you. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we want you to follow us on our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. Be sure to follow us and click that notification bell to stay tuned for all of our upcoming videos. We've got great things in store for you. So, follow us at our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. Well, let me officially welcome you to Monday. It is the 13th day of June 2022. Let me just apologize. It's nothing to do with the men. It's my fault. It has been one of those crazy mornings. Couldn't find keys, had to get children to school. It was just one of those mornings. So I must apologize to all of our viewers, to everyone, for our late start this morning. Let me officially welcome you to our Men on Monday journey today. I am Marissa Boyce. We have Pastor Edison Bynoe, Minister Sinclair Brown, and Bishop Mark Herwood with us today. And let me first start by saying that we have to reschedule our Men on Monday conference. Due to circumstances beyond our control, we have to reschedule. So I want to say thanks to all of you who've been supporting, but we will be in contact with you. And of course, you can look forward to our new dates. And these men are very, very interested in being a part of the conference. They were ready and prepared for you, gentlemen, but due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to go forward with this weekend's date. All right. So let me just first start by saying that. But I'm sure I'm looking forward to the men having their gathering away from women, right? Away from women, right? Sinclair would say, away from women, when the men will have their safe space. So good morning to all of you who are with us this morning. How was your weekend, gentlemen? How was your weekend?
Hey, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I had a pretty good weekend. Yeah, so I'm grateful to God.
No one,
My
no
kid
one.
had a blessed weekend. They had a blessed weekend. Yes, it was good, quiet, and peaceful. So yes, I was quite happy. Blessings.
Yeah, my weekend went well because I was able to sit and be ministered onto. And so I had very little to do on Sunday except just taking the worship, taking the word, and then taking the little fellowship that we had at the end. So all went well. Good morning to everybody.
That's good. And then this weekend it's all about the men. So the fathers have a weekend, the weekend where they'll be celebrated this weekend. The fathers are going to have a great time. But I also must say thanks to some of our partners for our weekend that was supposed to happen. Um, Springs Healing Touch, Fiona and the team there. I want to say a big shout out to them, and also the barber shops, taking sure that the men would have looked sharp. We had some great giveaways and so forth for you. But stay tuned, stay tuned. Again, we must apologize for those of you now joining us. We have to reschedule our conference for this that was scheduled to happen this weekend. So where are we picking up from as we continue from last week? Where are we picking up from today?
All right, let me go ahead and get the ball started. So I want to give a quick recap. We were talking about men and leadership, and it's important for men to take initiative in certain areas. But for the man to take initiative, the man must first learn to lead himself. And I think that that's important. And Minister Sinclair would have explained the importance of men being disciplined and the importance of the discipline starting in the home. Men have to learn how to function in their home when they're growing up, because at some point in time they have to leave their parents' home and they have to make a living for themselves. So if they don't have that discipline at home, then they're not going to have that discipline in the new home environment that they're forming. And then he talked about the fact, and we had a conversation about the fact that some women like to control. They like to be in the dominant seat. They like to tell the man what to do. And when sometimes the man feels controlled and in some cases manipulated, then the man is going to begin to pull back and shut down. And it becomes emotionally exhausting. It's not that the man doesn't take initiative or the man doesn't want to do things, but if he's constantly criticized or or he's constantly getting that interference, or the woman is second guessing what he's doing and that kind of thing, it can become very, very frustrating. Yeah. And sometimes it can emasculate a man if you're not careful. So there is a lot to men and leadership. One of the things that Minister Sinclair would have mentioned coming onto the end of the program, he would have talked about the importance of men reaching out to other men, and calling men into leadership, similar to what Jesus did. And I think that they have a lot of merit in that. I don't think it should take away from men taking initiative, but biblically we do see that. We do see Moses and Joshua. We do see David and Solomon. We do see in writing of the book of Proverbs, we see Jesus and the disciples. We see Paul and Timothy and Titus. So you have this sense of where men are reaching out to other men and calling them into leadership, boosting their confidence and their security, and then training and developing and mentoring the men, and then releasing the men to do what God has called them to do. So I've said enough. I'm going to shut up and let Sinclair go ahead. And Bishop Martin was not in last week's program, so we are going to want to hear from him this morning.
Right. So we stir the pot a little bit so Bishop Mark can jump in. Yeah. I do have an issue with this thing with emasculating, to be quite honest. A lot of people talk about a woman emasculating a man, but you have to know who you are. If you understand who you are, nobody can't emasculate you, like legit. Right? A person be disrespectful, a person can not listen, a person can do all sorts of things. But that's like saying you can't undog a dog. You can't, if a dog's a dog, a cat, a horse is a horse. The problem we have, and I've always had this issue, is maybe start to put these adjectives before the man. What is a good man? What is a this sort of man? Men always have to do this thing to be a man. And I've always say, you're a man. If you're born, you just lay on a brick, you're a man. Right? But it's all these things that saying a man have to do these things to be a man. No, I'm telling men that you are. First, you are being, and because of your being, you do. So whenever I work with men, I first establish you're a man. And I tell you, so many men are glad to hear that, because we need that father, we need that brother to establish. It cannot come from women. It cannot. So a man has to look a man in the eye, especially if he didn't have a father to give him that sense of identity and who he is. A man has to look, especially if that man has authority, a man has a position, and he has a level of respect. And the more men that look that man in the eye and say, you're a man, he doesn't have to go and do things to be a man. He understands he's not in that position. And because he's in that position, he starts then to do things that are in the office of man. And they also go on with men, they go to tell them, out of man, in man, there's a thing called husbandry. And it isn't, you don't really get married to be a husband. Yeah. Because when we talk about husbandry, it is a thing that allows things to grow. And the last part of that is being a father. You don't have to wait to have a child to be a father. And unfortunately, if a guy doesn't know his manhood, and then out of that man, he doesn't understand his husbandry, nor understand his fathering, he can easily be emasculated, because you're now trying to allow a other person to define your manhood. So a woman come in and say you're not a man, based on what, right? And then if he doesn't fit whatever her mindset is as a man, he's emasculated. He feels torn down. He doesn't feel he can match this thing. And all these different variables now, he just have to miss one or two of these things, and he's not a man. On the other hand, women don't have to go through that. So that I said in the last program, about a woman being disrespectful or not listening, or he has to fight for this positioning. My thing is, you chose the girl. So you should know who you are before you choose the girl. You can't choose the girl and then expect, you choose crazy. Then you're going to live with crazy. But you have to first know yourself before you choose the person. And a woman shouldn't have to want to follow your leadership because you have testicles. That doesn't make sense. I'm guaranteeing you that if you are leading, I'm telling you, she's going to follow because she wants to relax. She wants to breathe. But if you still vacillating between yourself and don't know who you are, and she has to make you to feel a command. She don't has to teach you how to bathe, and she has to do all of these things. Trust me, she ain't gonna follow you in a hurry, right? So that's my stirring the pot. I'm gonna let the brothers to jump in here, and like I said, everybody's smiling.
Yeah, well, I'm smiling because you're hitting some nails on the head. But that's why earlier I remember we were talking about this whole thing that people understand, men understand that, as you said, Sinclair, that they are created as man. But one of the things that I love to talk about, and you all know I bring it up all the time, is how men have been culturalized. One of the things about a man being a man is having men in his life, and not necessarily his father, because the father role is important. We wish that that was a perfect thing, but having men around who can be strong mentors. There are many guys who do not have a father, but had the right kind of uncle, maybe the right kind of connections to help to affirm them. And so you said some very true things there. A man goes in sometimes to and choosing his whoever he loves or maybe attracted to, whatever, um, with maybe misconceptions as to who a man is. And so from his brotherhood or street smarts or whatever, he believes that being a leader means that he's boss. So if I'm a man, what I say goes. If I'm a man, I lead everything. I think the first thing that a man has to understand about being a man is that he's a leader and not a boss. Because if you do not understand that you're a leader and not a boss, what you will do, you will go into your relationship seeking to be the boss. And when the person that you are trying to boss about have a mind of their own, have good points in arguments, have good intentions even of expressing their feelings, there's always going to be problems because you have not come to the realization that leadership or being a man doesn't mean that you're a boss. And let me explain what I mean. I might get into a particular lady, and if I understand who I am as a man and understand also the leadership part, I would very well be able to sit back and see my spouse or that person I'm looking to get married, see them take charge in many circumstances. A lot of times, men use this whole thing of being a man to get affirmation and to be strong. So I when I tell my wife jump, she just asks me how I. But a real man can look back and say, listen, when I speak to my wife, listen, right now my wife handles all my finances and I'm comfortable. My what? You just go home and give your wife all your money? Yeah, I can sit back in as a man, and a man who is strong in being a man, say to that, that is wisdom, sir, because she's better able to manage the money than I do. So you see, if you don't have that concept of a man being a leader, look, when God created the man, Adam, and he saw that he was lonely thing, the Bible didn't say that God created a man above woman, next to, she's a helpmeet to him. But if a man has a wrong concept of who he is, it can start with trouble because where a lot of men maybe struggle and are, for example, gangs that are popular for them is because not having someone to affirm them and they were young, encourage them, whatever, they look to that. So when a guy say, we love you, we can look after you, all the guys come together. So a guy comes to the guy and say, listen, hey, where you going to kill that fella for me tomorrow? He will go away because he's being affirmed, he's loved, he's being appreciated in that environment. So you got to really seek to know. And one of the things I always say that science, we come along thinking that we are men. We come along thinking that we know what's going on. And a lot of times when you sit down with men, I'm sure the pastor and the minister, I think they will tell you, sit down, saying, man, weak. Oh, she doing thing, and if she don't do that, I just doing that. If I don't think she ain't, you understand? So I think it is key to understand if you're a real man, you are a leader, and it means you can make decisions. It's not about you and Big Eva, but decisions that are important for the stability of the relationship. Have a listening ear, being able to make decisions based on the facts and based on giftings and not necessarily on look, I large and in charge in here. And that's what I think is very, very, very key. I mean, it's not something that you just get up with. You have to have the right environment and sometimes even come to counseling to get to have that understanding. I know I didn't talk much last week, and I'm going to talk a little bit too much just now, but I just talked on my part from last week. Okay? Thank you.
Well, let me say good morning to all of you who are now joining us. Sharon, Jason, Joyanne, We're talking about leadership today, and I have someone private messaging me some serious messages, and I'm going to post them for you guys to answer today. One of the questions we just talked about, Sinclair was talking about a man being a man, and one of the questions being asked: are men not predisposed to selecting a woman based on the relationship he has with his mother? Quite an interesting question there to ask the gentleman this morning when you talk about leadership. And another question that I did not, I'm about to post. Yes, I'm going to post it now. How can the men bash women who raise them in relationship to leadership? So you guys have got some serious questions to answer today. So the first one, are
I don't
men
understand
not
that
predisposed?
question. Is how can
Can the
men bash
men? I'm going to
women?
show you now. Who raised them
I don't understand that question.
in relation to leadership? I will
I don't
have to
understand
have
that
them
question. Like,
explain. Okay,
yeah,
well, let's
please let me
answer the
explain
first
that.
question and we'll go back to that. Okay.
I guess the first one I could jump on. Yes, in my counseling, that's one of the first things I looked at. Women fall in love with their fathers, men fall in love with their mothers. They're not consciously doing it. Most people are not conscious or aware that they are have this proclivity to be attracted to that same relationship. So 99% of the time, people that come in here is when they show them and go through the analysis and show them, yeah, you fall in love with your mom or you fall in love with your dad, and it scares people right down to occupations, birthday, shape, size, everything. And that also affects how that relationship goes because you may not have a healthy relationship with your mother, but then you have this unhealthy relationship with your spouse. So it kind of mirrors this thing because this is the first female you fell in love with, right? And then you're also acting as the male or the man that was in your life, like being your father. And women do the same thing. They fall in love with their fathers, and then they kind of have a tendency to act out as mom did. And this is subconsciously done. This is not consciously, people are not aware of it. It is in the subconscious mind. It is not in the prefrontal cortex. It's the subconscious mind, unconscious mind. And this is just something that we do. We don't recognize why we find this person attractive. Are we attracted to this person? So yes, I do believe so.
So Sinclair is the only one that's going to answer on that one.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
I was gonna,
yeah,
leave it
I was just waiting on the pastor, but he
No,
can go on.
no, you go right ahead.
Well, yeah, I think, well, for me, I would tell you straight up, and everything you can too. My father was always a person who takes care of his family and so on, but was never the lovey, huggy thing. But my mother was a very important pillar for my life. But I will say this: I spent almost all my life. My father died 3 years ago. I spent almost all my life trying to please my father, trying to get my father's affirmation, and he died, and I still never got it. You understand? He would tell other people, "Oh, his son," but when he got to tell me, I don't know what was the problem. But despite you might have that attachment to your mom, I still recognize that when it comes to the thing that straightens your back, it kind of like expect me. Men have had bad mothers, but generally speaking, expect your mother to be there. But we as men still somehow seek after that affirmation. A lot of times I deal with men. I've seen big men. I did a men's conference about 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I got over that so much time you didn't realize where it is now. And then one of the problems that at the end of the whole conference, and look at the purpose of man and all that, big men, some 50, 60. One guy, his father was 90 something, and he was close to 65, and were crying, literal tears, because they're all those years never had a tap on their back or a hug from their fathers. So mothers are very, because sometimes they have to be the father in the relationship. And I thank God for women, because a lot of women have to play the role of the dad too. Even sometimes when the dad present, right? And so mothers, yeah, great point. Mothers are very important. But let me tell you, we as men, we want affirmation from men here, and that helps us then for when we get into our relationships. But one of the things that worked for me, I would have seen certain times that my father would have been a little abusive of my mother, and what it did for me is that I didn't like it. So I made a determination that when I get married, that would never happen. I've been married for 20 years. I've never once pointed my finger at my wife and say anything. Doesn't mean I don't have my opinion very strongly too, but I don't ever get abusive. And so some people would have gone that, and that would become a generational thing. But you got to make decisions based, again, as I say all the time, you got to base the thing on your circumstance and be strong in your self-image. You're not weak because your wife runs the house. It works for me. It's better for me because then I got less things to worry about. But that's only me.
Well, we're going to take a break because I have another question. We're going to follow up with that second question that the person asked, and we're going to have the gentlemen give their answers. This is Men on Monday, and good morning to all of you who are joining us. I just want to just echo and remind for those of you who missed it this morning, we have to reschedule our, due to circumstances beyond our control, our conference, which is scheduled this weekend. We will not be able to have it at that scheduled time. So please stay tuned. We will update you as we go forward. Again, we must apologize for such. The men were ready, but due to circumstances beyond our control. So let's get ready. I've got some messages for you. Stay with us right here on Men on Monday. And I'm also letting you know about Pastor Bynoe, the author amongst us, with his book, 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Lifestyle, available on Amazon. Feel free to go to Amazon, search that 8 Success Factors for a Healthy Lifestyle, and make your purchase of that well written book. Some great factors, much of which we are taking our notes from today for our show in our series Becoming a Better Man. Now, we had a question that was asked privately, and I'm sharing these questions, and we're talking about leadership. And based on some comments and some thoughts shared by the gentleman earlier, here's our question as the person expanded on it. It says, if a mother is raising her son, he learns leadership from her. How can you fault a woman for this? So let's hear your
The,
thoughts on that.
Marissa, the thing about leadership, is that sometimes you have persons who will do the best that they can, but you also have to understand that sometimes leaders are defective in what they do. You lead from what you know, you lead from where you are, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're providing good leadership or you're setting a good example. So it's not so much a matter of bashing. It is understanding that you could be under a leader and the leader is not providing vision, the leader is not guiding appropriately, the leader is teaching you wrong morals, wrong values, and that kind of thing. So sometimes the woman leads from what she knows, but that may not necessarily be the best example to follow. Like for like if the woman is a cuss word, she leading, but she teaching you how to behave a certain way. So it's not so much a matter of bashing. We've all been under leaders that were very defective in what they did. We are not to emulate them. It doesn't mean that we criticize them or we pull them down, but we understand that there were certain deficiencies in their leadership. And I think we all have had, whether it's a parent or it's a pastor that we've served under, or it's a boss that we've had in the workplace, and they did not set the right kind of example. So it's not every leadership example that is a good example. Um, so I wouldn't say we're bashing the mother. We're just recognizing that sometimes there are women that will fall short in their leadership. And that's why sometimes you need other examples. You need other people in your life, whether it's other men, other women. You need different perspectives to help you to be the kind of person God would want you to be. So that's just my perspective on it. I see Marissa kind of uh, smiling there. Well, not really a
Well,
smile. But
I'm listening.
well,
I'm listening. I'm just hearing the
I
thoughts
think,
as they were shared with me. Go ahead.
right. Yeah, well, I don't know what y'all did last week, but I don't know. I don't think we have done any bashing this morning. So I don't know what would have taken place before, because the question was asked about mothers, and I think we would have made the comment, all of us here, and agreed, even if we didn't comment on it, that there are mothers who have been done it wrong for your foot, who have been very tremendous leaders who have brought up their sons and have done well with their children. Just as how there are some very single men who have done a tremendous job in terms of raising children. So there are always exceptions to the rule. But as Pastor Bynoe was saying, we have to look at what we think, what we know to be the ideal scenario and what we would want to see be the not necessarily perfect, but the best scenario. And that scenario means that we have men fulfilling their purpose, fulfilling their roles in the development of their children, in strengthening their families and so on. But, in everything, there are exceptions to the rule. There are women who have been tremendous role models for their children and have dealt with their children and brought up great men and women and so on. And also the same thing for men. But we are saying that as men now, we recognize that there are a lot of, even with Christian men, I'm sure we will agree to this, who have not really stood up to the test, who have not done the best that they can in relation to what God has called them to do and to be. So we all for ladies, man. We love our mothers, we love women, but some women can be difficult and hard, and they make our job harder. But that's reality. That's why we must be leaders and not bosses.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in here. I'm the bad guy. Because I'm too sure where we bash women. I think actually women are celebrated in so many ways, and I can't hear anything that we say that bash women in any form or fashion. Actually, we bash men more than we bash women, and it's supposed to be a men's program. So I really too sure where the bashing came from, in any form or fashion. And this is one thing here, honestly, that I think that when men start to speak, and people say they want to hear men speak, then if emotions and feelings are touched, and then it is weird, and men learn not to speak, because as soon as men speak, all of a sudden somebody's offended and somebody's hurt, and it goes through the echoes. And I tell you, men learn not to talk because everybody say they want to hear men speak, but no, I tell you that is not true. The reality is people do not want to hear men speak, because what people want, they want to hear what they want to hear. And snakes in the grass learn that. Yeah, and I was a snake in the grass, so I can tell you that when a man knows how to tell a woman what she wants to hear, becomes a good guy. When actually he's a liar. Yeah. If I tell you what you want to hear, oh, the best thing since sliced bread. No, I'm not. You know what I mean? Because I'm just telling you what you want to hear and not necessarily being honest to myself. So I'm not too sure where we bash women in any form or fashion. Let me talk about women raising us. The truth of the matter is, maybe a statement I made last week, maybe, I'm not sure, where women are raising men for themselves. Because when you raise your son, you're saying, I'm raising him, how to treat a woman. And realistically, you're raising him to treat you. So when he goes off to the female, yeah, and she's saying he's not a man. He's saying, well, my mom says I'm a good boy because I don't get in conflict, I don't get in noise, I'm not answering you back, I'm leaving home, or I'm exiting the room, because that was a good guy at home. And any boy child that is deemed a good boy, he doesn't answer back mom, he doesn't stick his head, he's not assertive. He goes to school, he makes sure his socks is up to his knees. You know what I'm saying? He has been a good boy his entire life. He stays in the bedroom and plays PlayStation. He doesn't get in trouble. He was a good boy. He leaves that and he goes to his wife now, and he stays in his bedroom. He doesn't get in noise. He's not assertive. And no, he's not a good man. So that is where the real issue kicks in. Because what is a good child doesn't make a good husband. And I normally have to get guys to understand, no, your wife wants a person that can decide. So he wants a guy that doesn't always have to run behind her every time she's upset. You understand? You gotta get away from that where you always gonna be rescuing the girl. What's wrong with you? With this, with that, with that. Something she wants a guy. Yes, she's crazy. Just don't leave, because men don't become so tender. As soon as the female gets upset, he's tender too, so he's offended. So he's acting just as effeminate as his wife. So it's two girls in the house. He's not able to stand present. What if she acts crazy? Look, when you finish acting crazy, I'm present. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. Guarantee, and that is what women want. Unfortunately, that is not what men are told. We're told come in and be supportive and be encouraging and be all that. They tell women get a pet, get a cat. You don't want a dude. Like, seriously, if you want a dude that has a spine, that has assertive, that you want to be able to be there for you through thick and thin, he has to be able to understand who he is, and I choose the girl even if she's crazy. But if he can't handle it, he's going to bounce, right? And that is kind of what we learn from home with mothers, where we are not raised to be a man. And unfortunately, women can't. Again, say you can do the best you can, and they celebrate that. And I'm a person that came from a household of women. So I celebrate my mother, my grandmother, my sister. Thank Jesus for that. But it was hell developing and unraveling the crazy that, to get to where I'm at, right? I'm not faulting my mother. She only could do what she can. The end of the day is, I'm just saying to us guys that we need to now stand in the gap where there is a missing link, and especially church, we need to start to look our men. I understand the conferences and sermons, but there is an element of a one-on-one. There is an element of one-on-one that men need. And it's because a lot of men have a lot of hurts and pains, and sometimes they don't know how to get to that gap to be a man. And we are getting to provider, protector, father, all of those are the things that come on the office of man. So we are putting the cart before the horse, and to be quite honest, and that is where it is. So we're not bashing women. So if you have felt that way, my apologies, especially me, because I know I'm the loose cannon. But I'm saying to you is that we celebrate women in every form or fashion. But the thing is that men need men. It isn't that you do anything wrong. It is that is how God designed it, and it's time for it to happen.
So you see, I posted another question coming from our lady asking, how does a man lead different from a woman? So
I was probing the question, and I was taking a look at it, and I need to give it some more thought. But we do know. Well, you see, the thing is, you
Me
can't
then?
jump.
You want me to deal with it?
Oh yeah. Well, no, I wanted Bishop Mark actually to jump in first, and then you could deal with it.
Yeah. Look.
oh, she's asking
You know,
questions.
right? No, we had that try. We can answer. We're frightened. We're frightened. You see what happened? Just as Sinclair said, you want the man to talk. When men talk, you start to want to know. Oh, what's the difference? Listen, there's differences, but what I would say to that question is, for any relationship to work, both persons must participate in the process. And similar to what Sinclair would have said, I believe sometimes women, and as much as, listen, I love my wife, 29 years of marriage, but women has something innate in them. And maybe if you look back from the garden experience in the Bible, to walk their own way, to sometimes not be receptive, not want to have an understanding area when it's concerned, or especially when a man might be giving good advice, but because it affects how they feel, it hurts their or injures, and it happens to men too, but mostly it injures their self-esteem. So you're telling me that I did this wrong, so you're saying something wrong with me. When the issue is that it is that I'm telling you something that can help to improve you, but women then take it that, and a man, I always tell people, if you watch any program where you have hunting going on with it, you don't see a deer running behind a lion, right? You don't ever see a deer running down a lion, not saying around your TV or your eyes, because we as men have been designed for leadership, designed and to be the hunters. So a lot of times women do not understand that. And so when the question that was different how a woman lead and a man lead is that the differences happen when a woman try to wear the pants. The woman's supposed to work alongside the man, not not to have a say on it. Of course, I have a say. But a lot of times, I'm sure the guys will tell when what we experience, and you hear some get talk about men will put forward something, and then you realize you then putting it forward more because you are not receptive, right? For years, I remember the early part of my marriage for about 2 years. I have all been trying to speak to my wife, quite to be vulnerable a little bit about, and I'm about 7, 8, 9 years older than she is, and try to show her the importance of saving and so on and so on and so on. It was like I don't know, building a house, because what took place was that she had this thing in her mind that once she worked for her money, she gotta get something out of it every month. Me, I figured, well, I got to look at the whole relationship and I got to put little savings down in case something happened. Well, eventually it worked and she listened. But initially that was a problem because if I had a terrible, leave out your nails this week or you plan to go away next year or next 3 months, that's a problem. Why my nails going to get that out? Why we do it out? More will come. So that's really the problem because there ain't so much of how a woman lead a relationship with a man lead. A woman, just like how I talk about a man has to be a leader and not a boss, a woman have to be submissive. There are many men who say that if they say a bar, their wife say a bar squared. And so what they do, and I tell the ladies what men do, St. Clair said it, if I'm trying to guide you and you think you lead, come on, will lay back and let you lead. Maybe that might be wrong, but he realized the only way he can get peace in his space is the thing. So I know that I think what St. Clair was saying is that if a woman has to lead a young man to be a real man, we're not saying that the woman wouldn't do good things, but not having a man around or a strong male figure. You think that a lot of those guys who are in gangs now and so on, that their parents in bring them up to about 13, 14, the house with a little bit they had and so on. But when every time it boils down, you don't see the leader in the gang being a woman, right? They become that father figure, whoever that gang leader is, become that model they look after, and that's why that person can get them to do anything. Because as St. Clair said, right, it is that God. That's how God designed it. And for women, that's why the Bible put women and even the marriage vows. I've repeated about 4 times when I do the marriage vows. Will you submit to him? Submit to him. Will you submit to him? 3 times I just say it, because that is where the leadership problem comes, where women feel that they know everything. And it comes over sometimes that every single thing, right, they're going to opinion of. And I'll give you one more example and then let the rest jump in. Years ago, talking my wife number began a little trouble. But I remember I was having a little rash on my skin and I got some skiderma from the doctor. But we had just had our baby and my wife was very protective of her child. She figured you can drop the child and all of that. And she had a little rash. So I said, with my little knowledge, because we fellas there's no, but I don't feel we know. I said, well, look, why not take a hairpin amount of the Skiderma cream and put it on Deandra's hand? And that was hard. Oh, no, that is too strong. That is not for her. That's for big people. So we went to the doctor, spent $80. And the doctor sat across and said, do you have any Skiderma home? You could have taken some of that and used it. Well, I sit on the chair, so I ain't saying one word, because had she listened and let me lead, we would have saved $80 and she wouldn't have had to look so bad. See what I'm saying? That's a typical example when you talk about how lead. Sometimes we make our rest, relax, let the man even make a mistake sometimes. Let the man go forward, right? And I think that's where the whole line thing. We have to understand our rules. And both parties, man and woman, always got some mess up thing, self-esteem about whatever that they have to deal with. And that is why people at St. Clair, and the lesser extent maybe myself, got a job. Because they can't get them things deal with, you can't deal with them. Now you will never understand that or bring a question about how what man lead different to a woman. They work together to develop whatever relationship they're in. That's my $1. And I leave it to the rest for the rest of the program.
Not 1 cent, but a dollar. But I think we're going to have to continue this because we're about to say goodbye for this morning. Um, Keeping it short and sweet as we continue to look at leadership. We had someone who was stirring. St. Clair usually stirs the pot, but someone was stirring the pot uh, a little today, um, asking about leadership. How does it differ from a woman and a man, especially in terms of leading and raising sons? So that was quite. But I'm glad that we did that. She did ask those questions because I think it highlighted some stuff that we tend to see the disparity in that we don't often address. But glad that she was able and she felt free that she could ask in this forum. So I want to say thanks to all of you.
I would propose that we use that as the topic for our next session.
What is that?
If my brothers will be able. How does a man lead different from a woman? Yeah.
All right.
I think that'd be a very interesting topic for next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my answer might not have satisfied everybody. Because they cleared off you and the pastor. So yeah, from there next week. Yeah, I agree.
How does a man lead different from a woman? That's what we are talking about next week. So quite interesting, quite interesting. I want to say thanks to all of you who've joined us. Sharon, Shannon, and those of you who are quietly watching and having your private conversations in your office and messaging me and so forth. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Men on Monday. Let me again apologize for our late start. It was just one of those mornings. It was just one of those mornings. But we got here and we were able to share with you. I want to say thanks to all of you for joining us today. And again, we'll be here next Monday at 9 o'clock for another show. And the men have already said the topic. How does a man lead different from a woman? So that has been our show for today on today's edition of Men on Monday. Have a good one. Thank you, gentlemen. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all is well with you. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we want you to follow us on our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. Be sure to follow us and click that notification bell to stay tuned for all of our upcoming videos. We've got great things in store for you. So follow us at our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide.